really not perceiving reality in the classic sense that we think we are. We are always experiencing consciously our own generated model of what's out there. And what informs that model for most of us is actually not what's happening out there. It's like beliefs, it's our conclusions that we've made about ourselves and the world based on prior experiences that we've interpreted a certain way. So much of our experience in both everyday life as well as in consciousness, it's really not reflecting any kind of objective reality so much as it's reflecting our reality. But in the meantime, exploring consciousness. If we're going to close our eyes and go on an imaginative journey, we're going to be encountering all kinds of things beautiful and amazing and wonderful and things that are strange and things that might even be difficult or challenging. And all of that is incredibly useful for us to know ourselves more deeply and really how to let go of some things that we're ready to and work towards letting go of other things that maybe take a little more time.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Consciousness Hub podcast. My name is Michelle. My guest today is Nathan Rehm, and he's a clinical psychologist who's been exploring consciousness for quite a while now.
Started really when I was 20. I'm 35 now. So 15 years here.
Tell me how you came to be a clinical psychologist and how that has helped you explore consciousness, or what got you interested in exploring consciousness.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And I guess the short version would be I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. And like many people, I was raised in a more conservative and straightforward worldview. And that worked fine for me for a while. But when I was 20, I really couldn't suppress anymore this like death anxiety that I had, this terror around my mortality. And I'd had it since I was a kid, but just kind of kept pushing it away. And then it was like in my face. And I said to myself, I guess I really don't believe all this stuff that I say I do, because otherwise I wouldn't be afraid. But I'm really afraid. So I had an honest moment with myself, and much to the challenge and pain of people that I loved, I just left the culture that I grew up in and went on a journey and started studying all kinds of things, psychedelics, and having vicarious trips by reading clinical research around the early research that was coming out in that time around psychedelics, and also out-of-body experiences for sure, and lucid dreaming and after-death experiences. So that said, I found Tom's work through all of that, and I know a lot of people in Conscious Hub appreciate Tom Campbell's model. So I found Tom's work and simultaneously ended up by accident, quote unquote, in studying trauma psychotherapy in my master's program, and really learned a lot about not only how to help people heal, but my own healing that was needed. And so, around 20, 21 years old, just kind of went on this hero's journey of trying to figure out myself and the big question of if we have a soul. That was the big one that was guiding my search. And through that, studying all kinds of things in clinical psychology, philosophy, science, and the journey still continues. I still don't know what's going on, but I feel much better than when I was 20.
Yeah, that's. I think that's part of it. Maybe we aren't. We don't feel like we've completed our journey, but then when we look back and see how far we've come, that makes all the difference, right? And you just see all the growth that's taken place over the years that have passed by. And you're teaching a fear clinic on Consciousness Hub at the moment, and that's a pretty major topic in Tom Campbell's work. Getting rid of your fear or mastering your fear is the key to exploring consciousness. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. what comes to me in this moment is whether it's in our everyday waking consciousness of just interacting in our lives or in meditation states and exploring consciousness, we're really not like perceiving reality in the classic sense that we think we are. We are always experiencing consciously our own generated model of what's out there. And what informs that model for most of us is actually not what's happening out there. It's like beliefs, it's our conclusions that we've made about ourselves and the world based on prior experiences that we've interpreted a certain way. So much of our experience in both everyday life as well as in consciousness, it's really not reflecting any kind of objective reality so much as it's reflecting our reality. And that's not a bad thing, but it helps us understand, oh, so much of the research out there is really me search, to borrow a quote from someone named Milton Traeger, who was someone in kind of the psychology and self-development world. And so, yeah, this research we're doing is really me search. And the more we sort ourselves out, for sure, the more we begin to accurately perceive what's really going on up there and be of use to people and feel better within ourselves. But in the meantime, yeah, exploring consciousness. If we're going to close our eyes and go on an imaginative journey like our godfather, so to speak, Carl Jung and his active imagination, we're going to be encountering all kinds of things beautiful and amazing and wonderful, and things that are strange and things that might even be difficult or challenging. And all of that is incredibly useful for us to know ourselves more deeply and hopefully learn a thing or two along the way about ourselves and really how to, I don't know, let go of some things that we're ready to and work towards letting go of other things that maybe take a little more time.
Mhm. Absolutely. That journey of self-discovery that keeps on unfolding. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, and it really never ends because even as we sort ourselves out more and we begin to explore what's really out there, and just a single other person is an entire universe unto themselves. Like there's so much in just one being that if we can accurately perceive the other being, that's a whole other thing to map out. That's wonderful and interesting how to relate to another person and then people's in a whole system and organizations or groups. And so even as we're sorting ourselves out, there's still so much to understand and explore and grow because we start dissolving the barriers of what's me and what's not me, and suddenly me has a bigger definition, and that's a lot of interesting complexity that when we're more healed, it's like, oh, I get to like learn this version of me in this person, and there's a lot of complexity in this group dynamic. Oh, like how is that going to actually learn something about myself through that experience? And so that's what's fun too. Conscious exploration is yeah, bigger and bigger identifications that we, well, like my name's Nathan, and that's true in some sense, but we're not so attached to that, or that's not the most interesting thing going on. It's everything out there, and the way that it reflects me somehow. Maybe what the universe originally intended in, having subdivisions at all, and having all kinds of different realities and expressions of realities.
Absolutely. And something like that, it affects how you see yourself, how you see the world and other people, and probably most easy to observe. It changes your relationships and how and I guess who you are or how you show up in your relationships. So I think that has been the greatest discovery for me. How it's changed me in my relationships. Have you felt the same kind of thing for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought I was pretty grown up, and then a couple years ago, I entered a really wonderful partnership, and let's just say I had a thing or two to work on, and there were things that I was completely ignorant of. I've done a lot of personal work. I've done my own therapy, my own meditation, years of consciousness exploration, and yeah, coming into a healthy relationship, I'm like, my goodness, there's all these aspects of me that I had no idea were going on. And fortunately, it's a very safe place for me to like, be authentic and wonky and, not so grown up in different ways and to learn from that. And yeah, to be able to like harmonize with other people, especially people that we have chosen to trust. It's just an incredible journey of, yeah, learning how to do relationship well and the growth that we go through in doing that. And the potential that it is when there's harmonization between two people and then if there's a family system and then larger systems, it's like how things can be creative and I can't do certain things, that I want to do alone. And then we're able to support one another and create something better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a worthwhile endeavor to see how you turn out to be in the relationship, and how it helps you to grow and grow together even. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 What's coming to me in this moment is like the way in which healing for me in both imaginal spaces and my consciousness journeys, as well as in waking life, so to speak, relationships, is when that earlier when I was talking about often our experiences wherever we go, physically, non-physically, it's more informed by our conclusions and predictions about what's going to happen rather than what's actually happening. And so, in non-physical land and interactions, I've had all kinds of ways my wonkiness would come out, and normally I'd want to like hide in shame around that, or judge it, or try to control it in some way.
Do you notice that when you are meditating, your cats are like attracted to hanging out with you, are sensitive to energy, and they want to come and be close and feel some of that with you? Because I always notice that about my cats.
Yeah, and it's like repeating and like expected almost, like just how
Yeah,
consistent it is.
right.
And in both ways, like I remember one time, I was meditating and cat jumps up on my stomach. I was laying flat on my back, and cat jumps up and lays on my stomach. That's expected, and so I'm getting in like a really good meditation state, and like starting to vibrate and all the classic stuff, and and then I have this like leaving my body moment, and my cat's like wow, and like jumps off, and it's like it was. It's so closely associated. It's hard not to make the story of like, oh, it's because of that phenomenon in my body. The cat it seems to be the most simple explanation. It's like, yeah, it's just really interesting. Like, and of course, that like jolted me back in, and but I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, like they're very sensitive creatures to positive energy or shifts in energy that they're not expecting, and then they're like, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah. I have three cats, but there's one that I'm very specially bonded with. I raised him from he was just a couple of days old, and I like bottle fed him with a little baby bottle, and he is so attached to me. And anytime I meditate, as soon as I feel my energy shift, I feel like, I feel like myself here, and then I feel myself dropping into my belly. You know what I mean, right? Like you just
Yeah,
kind of feel yourself like centering and anchoring down. And whenever I feel that kick in, wherever he is, he could be upstairs and I could be downstairs. He will find me as soon as that happens.
yeah, it's like the little bell saying that oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Come feel some
good
energy.
energy's ready. Come get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually it's like perfectly aligned with what we're talking because we're talking about like relationship and so often people are unfortunately but innocently we map other people as like being unsafe in different ways, like, oh, am I going to be judged, or am I going to belong, or what if this person is mean to me in some subtle way and or rejecting or something, and so animals so often for many of us are kind of an early refuge of connection. It's like, oh, like the, cats almost got this, like conditional love that you can expect. And so you're not bothered when they come and go as they please. And some people really prefer that. They like the space and the connection. And dogs are just like, where you been? It's been 5 whole seconds, and like they're just always unconditionally ready there to love. And yeah, like, relationships with pets are just as legitimate as with people. Those are family members as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And, love is love. And connection is connection.
Absolutely. That is so true because it is a connection and you do feel like you're communicating with them in some way and your state of mind affects them, your quality of consciousness affects them and vice versa. And yeah, and they do so much for us. And especially for so you're a clinical psychologist. I have struggled with mental illness for quite a good part of my life, where I was depressed since my teen years and had terrible anxiety. So being around animals was the the easiest thing for me. And like I even found out recently that when my dad was a kid, when people would come over to the house, he would go and hang out in the room with the dogs to avoid being with people. And I was like, oh, I never knew that until a couple of weeks ago. I never knew that about my dad all this time. And I said, like, how come I never got to stay in my room with the animals? You still made me come out and be with the people. Um, but but being with animals is something that is so comforting for people who are struggling with fear or with trauma or with trying to heal parts of themselves that they don't like. It's completely different when you don't like yourself, but then your animal, your dog or your cat or bird or whatever you love comes and shows you that they love you, shows you that you're worthy of love. It kind of it does something. It's like a balm on your soul, and I think that's worthy of appreciating.
100%. I have like chills right now as you're talking because this is the whole thing that I'm super passionate about right now, anyway. And that's what I'm informed by, like prediction models of the brain and neuroscience. And, this is really like positive prediction errors. It's like, oh, I have this belief that, I'm bad or wrong in some way or not right. And whether it's our animals or whether it's waking life relationships or even experiences in the non-physical, it's all equally valid. Like we'll come into relational fields and there's part of us that wants to connect and part of us is like, oh, I'm XYZ, whatever. We all have our unique soup of funny things. And then there's the animal or there's the partner or there's the non-physical connection that just sees all of that and just loves anyway. And it's easy to love. And then like this bomb in our soul goes off and we're like, what? And this is exactly, I mean, ever since I was a young person, I've loved Good Will Hunting. I didn't know why. This classic movie of this you know basically brilliant orphan that grew up in foster homes and was abused, and then was a janitor at a university and was pretty comfortable kind of being a nobody and laying low, but there was a part of him that wanted to be more. And there was in the math class hallway, there's like an unsolvable problem or a very difficult problem at least, and students usually can't solve it, and he's just doing his janitorial duty and then he solves it, and that's the domino effect that leads all the way in the movie to him ending up in his kind of first romantic relationship and all the negotiation of like wanting to be with her but pushing her away. And it doesn't give anything away because it's been out forever, to just say when it really, like, he takes off his armor and he's just really vulnerable about what he's been through and lets her in, it changes his life forever. And also with the therapist, that a big part of the movie is he's seeing a therapist and he does the same. He gets close, but he also pushes him away, and the therapist is just right with him in the right way. And it's those positive prediction errors of like expecting rejection, expecting conflict, expecting to be abandoned or something. And the relational field just says still lovable, still good, still want to be in connection with you. And that updates us to realize maybe I'm not so bad. Maybe I actually have inherent value. Reflections we should have got a long time ago consistently, but that's neither here nor there. We're all in the big same boat of, everyone doing the best they can in a pretty jacked up situation as a species. We're supposed to be in the jungle, with like 50 people, and we all know each other deeply. And, we're deeply attuned to the jungle and each other, and it's organic. And what we got now is just a circus of attachment and disconnection. But we can still get those updates like, oh, I have value. I'm lovable. I'm good. Even this nasty part of me that I try not to look at, yes, there's nothing in you that is wrong or bad or off. It's all beautiful and worthy of love in its own way, even if it's caused some problems or it's unpleasant, but that's innocent. It's come by really innocently.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. It's so optimistic and refreshing. And you know what I mean? Like just looking at it that way, just saying, yeah, we have it hard, but there are these little moments that can lift us up again and just kind of like bring your head up over the clouds and you can see the sunlight, you know,
Yeah.
and then you can see how to clear them away with a little bit of help. So that's perfect.
Mm. Oh, I love that image of like getting above the clouds and really seeing the sun, and that's exactly how change happens. Most of us innocently, again, to use that word, think like, oh, it's going to be some big experience that heals me or something. Uh, Big experiences do happen. This is from chaos theory. It's called chaotic phase shifts. But if you want a positive chaotic phase shift and not a negative one towards growth, you can't do a chaotic phase shift. You have to do these little accumulations that you look above and you see the sun, and then you're back to the usual status quo stuff, and then you see the sun again, but you don't go back as low, and like, and there's this tipping point. It's when a strange attractor that is different comes in chaos theory and complexity science. A strange attractor comes in that's now where our consciousness is being attracted to. It's like, oh, I was being attracted to believing that, I suck in different ways. But now it's like, oh, I keep seeing the sun, these updates, these positive prediction errors of like, that's reality. Oh, that's interesting. And suddenly I can just see the sun. And it's not that life is perfect from there, but I get to really feel and believe in a deep place that I'm lovable, I'm worthy, like I can trust people. People are relatively trustworthy. If they, are consistent and earn my respect, then I can fully let go into their presence. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing that takes time. And so I just, I won't go into details, but you can relate, and everyone that is listening can probably relate. Like life's hard. We've suffered a lot, and it just takes forever, it seems like, to get anywhere productive. But we really can arrive in amazing places through those accumulations. And it's worth it. Once we're hanging out above the clouds consistently, we go, it's always been worth it. Just scraping and trying to get somewhere better. Then we go, oh, I'm here and it was worth it all along. And then we can reach down and help people in our different ways, people that resonate with our personalities and perspectives. That's why it's so great. There's so many different people. It's like different people connect in different ways with others. We can all pull each other up. And so, yeah, it's optimistic and possible. Like, lived experience. You've healed and I've healed. And do we have more healing to do? Yes, but here we are. But here we are.
Yeah.
And that's a different place than before.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's definitely what it is. It's just the looking back and seeing how far you've come and 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 making sure that you, I guess, acknowledge to yourself like, hey, good job. You came this far. You've done it. Like look at all of these things you've overcome. Um, I think that's a big part of it too, acknowledging um, that you have been in those difficult places, because I think sometimes when you've done the work and then it's kind of like easy to forget that part of yourself and be like, oh, I never felt that way. You can kind of like imagine that you never felt that wretched, or that you never disliked yourself so much, and you kind of alter your own memory of yourself in that way. But being honest and saying, like, okay, those were some things that I actually did need to work on. They were some things that were holding me back or making my relationships difficult. And now look, I have put in the effort and I have been able to make these improvements. I think acknowledging that that at some point maybe you weren't doing that great is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the stages are legitimate. Like as we're making progress, we probably in a good way need a little bit of distance from like how wretched and sucky we felt and how life was. And we're still building and accumulating resource and strength really to be able to like come full circle and integrate. Life's been pretty tough for me because we are protected in how much we actually don't feel like our situation. That's just so like this is why like people have near death and after death experiences and and they'll just feel the absolute understanding and sympathy and love and tearfulness of whether it's Jesus or angels or whatever. Like they'll just be this understanding of you and your life and yeah, like it's protective for us to not fully feel our situation. Dissociation gets a bad rap, like oh, we're not conscious of things, or we're suppressing, or compartmentalizing, or something. And I'm like, compartmentalize away. Like thank God for dissociation because it buys us time and distance to then be able to build our resources and our strength, and then when the time's right, yes, it lands just how much we've been through. And then we get to have both. We get to feel better. And like you're saying, we've integrated our history. We really have felt our situation and understand it. And that is how we become something of a bridge for others to like be feeling well, but not disconnected from the very real suffering of life that all of us have been through. And there's a simultaneous integration of both. It's like, oh, I'm happy I'm here, and it's been tough to be here, and both are true. And we can. I know I, for myself, anyway, I'll speak for myself. When I've been around people that have both of that online really strongly, there's such a settling for me. There's such a way of like feeling my own peacefulness and centeredness, just being in the presence of people who have, done enough work to be at that place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I know exactly what you mean. You can feel that, that just from their presence, and that's beautiful. And I really love what you said, accumulate enough resources to deal with it, because it could take you decades to get to that point where you have
Absolutely.
accumulated the resources you need to be able to cope with something that happened, in your childhood or your early life, or, something that left its mark on you very deeply. So, and people have to be patient with themselves, that it might take them longer um, than maybe they think it should. Maybe they're like, oh, it's taking me so long to get over that thing, but that might just be what they need, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'm understanding of our situation of like the urgency or wishing it was just not taking so long because it's a double-edged sword to be able to have this amazing prefrontal cortex and left hemisphere that can understand things relatively quickly and imagine how things could be. And that's a very fast timeline relative to the right brain, which has its own timeline and its own pacing of embodiment and really felt reality, not just cognitive. And so yeah, it can take a long time, and that's okay. And it's also okay if there's some part of us it's like I'm ready to feel better now. It's been a while, and I can just imagine what it would be like, and why can't I just be there? And that's why it can really help to have good people around us that um, there's a soothing that happens even if we're not as far as we'd want to be. We're just surrounded by people, in person, digitally, not physically. However, that just hold our experience with us. So we're not the only ones holding it. There's others alongside us that, gives some buffer to that longer timeline. And yeah, then we do get those resources. We really do get strength over time, and really again feel what I was saying earlier. It's like, oh, I understand why it's taken so long, and it's been worth it. And anyone who's listening, I don't expect them to feel that, because when you're just in the dumps, it's like, the skepticism, the cynicism, the helplessness and hopelessness. I just all understand that too. I've been there a lot, so I don't expect anyone to really be feeling that as I'm talking about that. But for whatever door that might be open in people's hearts or minds, just say, if you haven't, just look for some kind of help. And don't do it alone. We never were meant to. We're this social species that, from the beginning of our ancestry, like we've always been deeply connected. And again, it doesn't have to be people, animals, not physical, but in person or physical support, even at a distance digitally, can make a big difference. And so it doesn't matter who it is, just someone you connect with and feel safe with, to not do it alone. It takes a bit of courage, but it
Mhm.
helps a lot to just, take a chance.
Absolutely. I definitely agree, and I have experienced that myself. And I know that when I was feeling at my worst, and I would read things or hear things like find your tribe, and I would get kind of annoyed because I was like, how the heck am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to find my tribe? I can't deal with myself. I can't even be with myself right now. I just want to be alone, and I can't even handle my own mind, and what it's doing to me, because I had that very harsh inner critic going all the time at one point, um, and and that voice was telling me I was taking too long to heal. That voice was telling me that everybody else is managing life perfectly well, and just not you. So whenever I saw or heard, you got to find your tribe, everything gets so much easier. You can't do this alone. I'm like, no, please, somebody tell me how I can do this alone. I just want to, like I said, that's not possible for me. And so I did for quite some time. I mean, 4 years. For 4 years, I was doing the work on my own, and like really sticking into the ground, like digging in there, and like trying to find all of my deepest, darkest secrets, and bringing them out and taking a look at them, and seeing what I could resolve. And I did get a lot of work done. I did make a lot of progress. I was able to see the sun above the clouds. Things were going pretty well, but I still had these sudden panic attacks every so often that would tell me, there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? Because I was doing this by myself, and I was having these experiences alone and not talking about it to anybody. And then, and they were a little unusual. I was like, maybe there's something going on with my brain. Maybe my brain is broken, that I'm seeing these things or hearing these voices or whatever it was that I was experiencing, because I didn't have anybody to share it with. And I had never read anything about out of body experiences. I didn't know that's what was happening. I didn't know anything about the Monroe Institute or my big toe or Tom Campbell, nothing about any of that stuff, until last year in May. So it's just been about a year. And it made all the difference in the world to me. First, reading my big toe and hearing Tom Campbell's experiences, and it made me feel so. Uh, I guess I felt safe. I felt safe. Like, okay, there are other people that are experiencing something like this, something very, very similar to this, what I'm experiencing, and maybe that's just my next place to search. And then I found a group of people who all were trying to do the same things that I was doing. Um, and um, and you're one of those people in that group, Nathan. That's how we met. And it's been life changing to just be able to talk to people in this meditation group, just saying, hey, I know that you're another human being that's doing something that I'm trying to do too. And let's all share our experiences and let's just cheer each other on when we have a little win, or let's send a little love to each other when we're feeling down. It makes such a difference. And I'm trying not to get emotional here because it's very close. um, but it has been life changing to be able um, to just, I guess I found my tribe. I guess that is the only way to describe it. I've been able to meet people that want to um, share these experiences with me, and I think that that's something that all of us, just human beings, can. And it might not be right for you right at this moment, because for those 4 years, it wasn't right for me. I wouldn't have known how to manage um, talking to other people. But now that I've accumulated the resources to get to this point, I can participate in this section of the journey with the group. I think that's fantastic, and I'm very grateful for that.
Just feel really moved listening to you, and so grateful to. Yeah, I was feeling so moved by your share, and like there's such a resonance for me because part of what happened in my experience too was a period of real isolation that was necessary for my journey. And so for those who there's just not an open door or mind and heart for like connection with other people yet, that's fine. It's like I really don't have any belief in shoulds or supposed to's, or like there's a way to do things that's right. I think that's I'll keep it PG here. That's bull snot, as my father would say. So just to say, like to not force it, I think is always the good maxim for life. A good rule for life is like just not to force things, and how organic it was for you to do such sincere, powerful work on your own, and we can, that intent just changes so much when it's coming from such a deep place to know ourselves and heal and really move forward. And in my experience too, so often a productive healing journey like that naturally opens into like just almost spontaneously or without trying, finding resources online and communities online, people in person that start to reflect my experience, and I feel safe enough to be like, I think I'll take a chance. I think I'll connect with some people. And I know Consciousness Hub is both a place where classes happen as well as community. And so if people are looking for a community around these kinds of topics of conscious exploration and healing and out of body and more, it's just a place that I, in my own experience, have seen lots of quality individuals interacting, and I've interacted there myself. And so really, to not force it and just see how it organically happens over time. And there's no need to like rush or force or worry about things, to just let your experience be your own. And then people come and there's, support. And so I'm really glad that you and I got to meet in that group, and then it's expanded so much. It started as a little tiny group of people just informally wanting to do exactly what you're talking about, like just to support one another, share experiences, understand oneself with the support of others. And naturally, like that's grown, and people can form that kind of group for themselves, like find resonant individuals and a shared practice and start exploring. Like, why wait for a program or pay money? Like, if we have the gumption and the will to just get in there and, start connecting and having experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are some really amazing people on Consciousness Hub. They are very, very loving, very supportive, and it's always great to interact with them. It's been yeah, I think I joined Consciousness Hub in July of last year, so it hasn't quite been a year, and it's just been so much fun. All of the people I've met have been wonderful to talk to, so interesting to hear their stories and how they got to, to here where we're talking to each other, where we've gotten the chance to get to meet people from all over the world, which is amazing. And we're all interested in the same thing, which is just how to be more loving, how to how to be better versions of ourselves. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I can piggyback on that to just say, the community aspect um, helps consciousness exploration. Like if somebody wants to understand truth and the larger reality, they can do that on their own. But so often we can't even know what questions to ask all the time, or if we're encountering certain challenges or puzzles, at least perspectives that we never would have thought of ourselves get stimulated by someone else offering supportive reflection or options. And so yeah, it's this heart-centered thing for sure. And to speak to the intellectuals that want to figure this out and get in there, it's like relationships might be the best way to sort out a little bit of like what's going on in the larger reality. And so I'll speak for myself, and maybe you resonate with this, Michelle, but it's been satisfying for the left brain and right brain of me. It's like, oh, like, the part of me that wants connection, and also the part of me that's like, what's going on? I want to figure it out. I want to study it. Like, what's the science of it? What's the modeling and mechanics? And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just cool how those go together, as you might expect. The corpus callosum, so to speak, that bridges, both.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that is why I think this resonated with me. Consciousness Hub and MBT specifically resonated with me because I was, for most of my life, or most, I would say, like my late teens and most of my adult life, very left brained. Just like always. Um, I was the detective, like I was the detective and the judge. And, like I just wanted to figure out how everything worked. And I wanted to take everything apart and look at the insides and see if I could put it back and see if I could make it work without putting it back altogether. You know what I mean? If I could still make it work while it was still open. Those kinds of things appeal to me. And now I'm exploring this whole other side of my brain, because my right brain has really come online with full force in the last couple of years. And I'm trying to find a balance between the two. And that was what was causing me so much angst. Was my left brain wasn't satisfied with the explanations. I needed some physics. I needed something solid that I could say, all right, I understand this, and now I can accept it in myself. Like, I understand what's happening from a scientific level. And then after that, after I was able to accept, like, okay, now I can see how the paranormal can be normal. Now I can see how I can have these experiences and still be a logical, sane, rational person. I that was something that was important to me. I needed to have the balance between the left and the right brain, just to for me to feel comfortable with what was happening, with the changes that were taking place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm having my own kind of journey come to mind because Tom has been a very important mentor, teacher, and friend to me. And another mentor, teacher, friend that has had a pretty comparable impact is my teacher, Steve Hoskinson, who created an approach called organic intelligence. And they don't know each other, Tom and Steve. But Steve, like Tom, does like kind of big picture modeling just from psychology sort of angle rather than physics. But he does his own kind of bigger modeling and systems theories. And they both independently said something that when I heard the second one say it, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And they said, I'm giving you the intellectual information so that you can give yourself permission to have the experience. It's like, and that's a valid path for many of us who are both left and right brain, and we need the intellectual modeling to feel safe enough, frankly, to then step into the waters of experience. Because once we step into the waters of experience, who knows where those currents will take us? Like it, the intellect is safe, it's detached. I can model everything from way out here, but it's just not so much involved. But it can be a really wonderful bridge to be like, I'll put my big toe, no pun intended, in, and just how is the water? But we put our big toe in, and suddenly, we're taken away by our big toe,
Right.
and it takes courage to have experience, to move into a different hemisphere. And part of how we get that courage is that modeling. It's like, okay, to like have a big picture model that intellectually is satisfying, that also says it's going to be okay. It'll be unpredictable, but it's going to fundamentally be okay. And it's the path to what you really want. So jump in there and just expect it to go unexpectedly, but safely. And so I was really taken by that, and also hearing you basically say the exact same thing, and that resonates with my journey. I want to understand it before I do it, and I think that's completely legitimate.
Yeah, I think that's and that's why I hope more people will hear, because this is a very niche group. You know what I mean? Like there aren't a whole lot of people who are trying to explore consciousness, have these out of body experiences, and stay completely grounded in physics and in the real world. And actually, when I heard Tom say, like, if wherever you're spending time, you should be spending time here in physical matter reality more than in the non-physical, more than trying to explore consciousness and have those types of experiences. The place where you need to function the most successfully as a human being is here in physical matter reality. And that really was an eye-opener for me, because um, I hadn't thought about it that way. I hadn't thought about it because I was like, oh, as long as I'm thinking positive thoughts and but I wasn't interacting with my environment. I was very detached from PMR, and I was kind of just, like thinking beautiful thoughts and being in love with the world all the time. But, but what I really needed to kind of move to the next step was to feel present here, to feel connections with people, to feel like that I'm really participating in life on a daily basis, and not spending all of my time just in meditation or trying to or spending all of that time trying to chase down these traumatic memories to resolve. I think that's like that's something to keep in mind, just as a caveat, I guess. Just like keeping yourself here is is part of the work.
Yeah, and it is a work. In the fear clinic, I spend a disproportionate amount of time talking about one out of three skills. And the one I spend the most time on is five sensory practice here in PMR. And it's for the exact reasons that you talk about. So often, people are like, oh, I'm stuck in PMR and I just want to get out there and explore the larger universe. And, the implication is like, I hate being here. Well, of course you hate being here, because here is probably not even really PMR. It's probably this like internally generated model of reality that is so heavily biased towards threat prediction and threat simulation. And it's not even really fully what's going on out there. And we come by that really innocently for reasons I won't go into right now, but it just happens for everybody. And so, yeah, like let's get out of, our own internally generated model of reality that sucks, and like get to something better that's relieving. And then, yeah, at some point, uh, like reality always does, there's this return. There's this circling back to, okay, PMR, but in a different way. What's the famous poem? Uh, to go on a journey, but arrive where you started as if it's the first time, or something like that. You're coming back to PMR, but you're coming back as a different being with a different reason. It's like, oh, I'm actually here to be present now, And yeah, when we really connect with life, and it doesn't have to be people yet, what I encourage people to do is start with not necessarily jumping right into deep connection with other people. If you do, great. No, nothing wrong with that. But if that feels like a lot, then just start with sensory practice because our brain is always asking, how much can I trust sensory information versus my own conclusions about how reality is basically painful and scary and unpredictable. And usually it's like that one's really important and weighted, and new sensory information, not so much. I just need to be protected at all times. But if we can just practice being here in sight and sound and smell and taste and touch and really do that consistently, we start going, actually, like it might be kind of okay to be here and it's not so scary, and it helps different parts of us get updated and rather than just being in their own conclusions and private simulations that aren't really real. So, yeah, I think that's really resonant with what I've seen in my own journey and what I help my clients with is like, before we do any kind of deep, work, let's just get connected here in PMR. This avatar has rules, and one of those fundamental rules is getting safe, getting secure, feeling stable in oneself. And there's lots of ways to do that. There's no right way, but I found five sensory practice really powerful for that reason. And why I think people understand the big picture, like not only my teacher Steve, who really emphasized this, but Tom. Tom in his book, as well as later on when he developed Tom Spark, that his first step is always just connect with sensory stuff. He talks about in Tom Spark, it's like just start getting your non-physical senses online, get in there and map things out, and it feels good and it's an easier step, so they're good in that way. But there's also something subtly really important about that. It's like it's sending this sensorium information to our system that things are okay, things are okay. And likewise in his book he goes through different mantras, but he does sensory mantras like, go into the non-physical and do a sensory mantra around a beach or a fabric of a coat that you like. This is book one. He's introducing this practice. And rather than being like a practice you graduate from, in my experience and my work with clients, it's a practice that you build on but always keep. Like you don't move on from five sensory practice. You add other things as they become relevant, but most of the work is that. And so lots of resonance of what you're saying of just getting into connection with life.
Yeah.
Life as it is, physically, relationally, all of it. We're here for a reason. It's a good thing. It's tough, but it's also like good to be here when we really see the big picture.
Yeah. It's great to be here. It is definitely a gift. And it has been amazing talking to you and getting to have this cool conversation um, and yeah, and just kind of dig into these topics of how to navigate some of the more difficult parts of ourselves and come through it and be okay with where we are. And that's I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. I really have enjoyed this chat. So thank you, Michelle. And good to just know you and your story a little more. So thank you so much for sharing it and let me share mine. And yeah, I hope, things that we've talked about today inspire people a little bit. And if anything, just give a little bit of a hope and perspective that, probably where they are is exactly where they need to be, and they're headed in a good direction. And there's good things out there, like the hub and people and the information there.
Yeah, and just having the intent of growing spiritually or exploring consciousness with the aim of becoming a more loving person, just having that intent, even if you're taking the barest little baby steps, or even if you're just treading water for the moment, um, I guess just holding that intent in your heart is enough just to keep you moving in that direction.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. That intent literally changes reality.
Yeah,
Yeah, opens things up that weren't even there.
that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Nathan. It has been a pleasure, And I really appreciate you being here and spending your time with us. And I look forward to chatting with you again. Definitely exploring more subjects in clinical psychology, how it relates to opening up our consciousness a little bit more and seeing what we can find in there and how we can improve ourselves. And is there anything that you'd like to say in closing before we leave?
Just thanks for caring about things that matter. Even just being interested helps like create the world that we know is better and possible. So yeah,
Yes.
I just want to thank your listeners for being them.
Oh, that's very well said. Perfect. Thank you so much, Nathan.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon.